Hello, everyone, and welcome to another 30 for 30 episode. That's right. We are doing 30 days of Springsteen in November, 30 episodes, one episode for every day of the month, and we are discussing a different Springsteen album during every episode. And joining me today is my good friend, Chris Bloom. Chris, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Jesse Cast.
Always love having you on. We always have a blast when we talk. So, in case someone has not heard you before, tell us a little bit about Chris.
Originally from the UK, Cambridge in the UK, came out to South Africa in 1990 as part of what I thought was going to be like a working holiday sort of world tour. I planned to stay here for a couple of years and then move on somewhere else. But so far, 34 years later, this is my first and only stop. You don't quite realize what a big thing moving country is.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd be here for 2 years, but it's here 2 years and I'd hardly seen anything because you're busy working. Enjoy it here.
And it's become home?
Yeah, very much. I went back to the UK, been back on average maybe every 3 years or so since
Yeah.
then. But there was a long break between, went back in 2015 for my brother's birthday, was supposed to go back in 2020. Little bug called COVID came along and
Yeah.
ruined those plans. So I went last year, and my daughter and I coincidentally coincided with Bruce Springsteen playing at Hyde Park. And I didn't really have the money for the tickets. So I sent a pleading letter to wonderful Donna at Bruce Funds. And I said, look, I've seen Bruce before, so I understand if there's people who haven't seen them, I'd rather they get the chance. But if there are spare tickets, I was very fortunate, an anonymous donor, who I know who it was, but he wants to remain anonymous, very generously, who couldn't make the concert, but gave the tickets away. So I went with my brother, and we were in the general admission section. So the first time I'd seen Bruce was in Johannesburg, and I'd been right
Right.
at the front, leaning against the stage, basically.
Yeah.
This time we got early entry, went to the barrier, the general admission barrier, but you're still quite a long way back, and it was raining a bit. I sent my brother off to get a beer. It
Hmm.
took him like about half an hour to find me again, and I said to him, "Are we going to stay here for?" Because this was like 1 o'clock, and the concert
Yeah.
started at 7. I said, "Are we going to stand here for the 10 hours?" And he
Yeah.
shook his head. So we went back to, there was like a beer garden section at the back. There was a place selling food and beer, and we just sat there. But it was great. It was a different experience. There was lots of people, and everybody who sat down, I played "Who Traveled the Furthest to Be Here." And I think I won every time. Or there might have been one person from Australia who
Yeah. It is. I don't know if you play poker, but like you've got quad aces and you're like, oh, let's bet. You've got a pretty good chance.
Yeah, so we watched it from, they had big screens up, so we are quite near the back, but it was a different, the concert in Johannesburg was great, but there was just like a different energy. And I tweeted afterwards, this was a 73-year-old man performing like a 23 man, as if his future recording career depended
Yeah.
upon this performance. It was just outstanding. The energy for 3 hours, and it's just continuous, and it's amazing. Yeah, so it was a different experience, but just as enjoyable.
Yeah. How did your brother enjoy the show?
Yeah, he's not as big a Bruce fan as me, but he had been to the Hyde Park where they turned off the lights
Oh, wow.
a few years ago when he was playing with McCartney and they pulled the plug. So this was his second concert. And I just want to, so I'm going on about this a little bit, but
No, please.
a few days later, we went to, my daughter and my mum, we went to see Mamma Mia on the West End,
Yeah.
and I thought it was a very good movie. But this was, if I dare say it, equally as impressive as the Springsteen concert. Just the sheer professionalism, the energy they put into it. They're doing these shows like once or twice a day. It was, and you're in a room. Before the show starts, they say put away your phones. Please don't sing along. don't talk. And I wish they'd say that before Springsteen concerts as well. But anyway, so everybody's there. Everybody's just glued, eyes glued on the stage, and the atmosphere. And I found it. In the end, it's just basically a bunch of ABBA songs with a
Yeah.
bit of a storyline, but it was quite an emotional experience. It's the first time I've been to a musical, but that intimate feeling to 1,000 people or whatever. So that was definitely another highlight of my trip.
That sounds a lot of fun. We have seen Mamma Mia we didn't have very good seats, and that wasn't the problem. The problem was Fair Park, where we saw it at, was built years ago, so it's not built for a man of my size. So
Uh,
like I was crunched into the seat, and I feel like poor Linda was like I was taking over half her seat. But yeah, I just it's a fun jukebox musical,
yeah,
and so I bet it was. Did your daughter enjoy it?
yeah. No, it was her. Because my mum before we went said, "Would you want to go and see a show?" So I
Yeah,
gave Tanda a list of possible musicals, and she said, "No, I want to see Mamma Mia." Yeah, and it's the music I grew up to because my mum was in the 70s. My mum was always playing ABBA tapes in the
sure.
car. It's like it goes across like three generations,
Yeah, and I was gonna
and we
say,
and we all experienced it together. So it's a very special time.
yeah, I imagine the three generations, you, your mom, your daughter, she's with her grandma and her dad. I imagine that's awesome. That
Yeah,
is greatness.
that was
Thank you, Chris. I'm glad for catching up, and I'm glad that the greatness of Donna and Bruce Funds, guys, in case almost everyone should know, but Bruce Funds is a one angel production. The reality is, Donna works very hard to find people who have unneeded, who have tickets that are going to go to waste, and getting them to people who have not seen Bruce before or have a situation because they're financially can't afford to go, and she makes sure that the tickets don't go to waste. She is, in fact, Amy Lofgren just tweeted about how much she supports her and Neil supports them. And Donna's been on the podcast multiple times. She is just a dear person, and I'm glad you were able to give her a little shout out.
yeah,
Are,
yeah.
what album do you want to talk about, Chris?
Tunnel of Love, which was my gateway drug into Springsteenism. I've relayed the story before, but I'll go
Please
over it
repeat
again.
it. Yes.
I'd known Dancing in the Dark when that came out, and I was aware of Born in the USA. And then in early 1987, I think the live version of Born to Run off the live 75 to 85 was released. And it was released as a CD single. I'd just got a CD player and I bought that probably because I couldn't afford to buy albums at that stage. I was still at college. So I just wanted a CD. And I liked Born to Run, and I think it had Johnny 99, Spirit in the Night, and Seeds,
Yeah.
all the live versions, if I remember correctly. But then I didn't pursue it anymore. And then I was a big fan of Dire Straits. My favorite Dire Straits song was Tunnel of Love. And so the Springsteen album suddenly comes out called Tunnel of Love. It was 1987. There's no way to preview it. The only way you
Right.
could find out what was on it was either read a review or buy it, mainly buy it.
Yeah.
So I was wondering whether he'd covered the Dire Straits song. So I bought it anyway. And then when I put it on, and it starts almost a cappella, just
Yeah.
but with I ain't got thinking this doesn't sound like the Bruce Springsteen. The limited exposure I've had to him, I thought that this is very strange. So I was a bit shocked the low keyness of it, and I thought, what have I got here? But over time, it's become, yeah, one of my favorites. As I often say, it's a top five album along with about 12 more. Um,
Yeah. Said.
if we want to go through
Yeah.
the tracks,
Yeah.
um,
So what I just wanted to share is that I often say When someone asks that Tunnel of Love, I think When I Have to Push is my favorite album. There's obviously each album has a special place in your heart. It just means a lot to me. So I was thrilled that you wanted to talk about it. So, yeah, let's dive into it.
I'd say I think that the songwriting is so strong on that album. He could
Yeah.
sing that. He could literally do the whole album a cappella,
Yes.
and it would be just as good. The music is just in the background really most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I ain't got you, the first song, like I've
Yeah.
always thought of it as he's someone he's admiring and who he wants, and you could think maybe it was written about Patty
Mhm.
or someone he doesn't have. But another way of thinking of it is maybe he was writing it about Julianne
Mhm.
while they were married, and
Yeah.
he's got her, he's got everything, but he doesn't get her. If you see what I mean, there's
Yeah.
not that connection, and he's crying out for that connection with her, which he's not getting
Well,
of looking at it.
right. Supposedly, Steven is the one who, talked about, look, no one cares about what you don't have, right? I feel this, and not related theme wise at all, but this feels a little bit like Redheaded Woman in the MTV Plugged album. It you The song kind of doesn't fit with the rest, but it opens you up. So I think this is a really fun way to start the album. And I think it also lulls you to perhaps it's going to be a different album than you suspect it's going to be. Right? Yeah, I agree. It's a fun way to start the episode. It's a fun song. And I do like your thought that is this about, I absolutely think it's about Julianne and his relationship because he's talked about in his autobiography that he's at dinner looking at her and going, if she really knew me, she wouldn't love me. Yeah, so good start. What next? Which one do you want to talk about next, sir?
Okay, what didn't obviously if we go in chronological order, tougher than the rest. I think that what made that song for me is I remember walking into a record store and the album had been out a while and they
Yeah.
were playing the video, the
Mm,
music video for it on a TV in a record store and they had the song on. And that video I thought was brilliant, but it's ruined a bit because you've got Bruce and Patty.
mhm.
There's that sort of it, they're looking at each other while they're singing at it. And because at that time that relationship or budding relationship was all over the media and in the gossip columns,
Yeah.
you knew what was there was an underlying current to the or narrative to what you were seeing, but it was ruined a bit by they put the sort of goofy shots of random couples in between. But I think if they just focused on that video, just the whole thing could have just been Bruce and Patty, and that would have been just as appealing as a video. But
Mhm.
as a song, yeah, it's a great song. I think I don't know now. I think it's a bit naive
Mhm.
in this day and age.
In what way?
I don't know. It's difficult to explain. I think these days almost sounds like he's desperate.
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, it's difficult to.
Articulate why you feel that way?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know. I just become maybe more cynical about yeah about that.
I will. I'm going to
I
make
just
you
sort
look
of
good.
yeah. I've lost my train of thought a bit.
Here, I'll talk a little bit. I think Tougher Than the Rest is one of the best, and we're going to say this over and over again, but I love this song. I love that a lot of country artists have covered it. It is a song that, this and Fire, often when Patty and him are doing a duet, they do this. I love There was a story during the Magic. working on the Dream Tour, where there was a young man who was facing a lot of illness, and they talked about that Tougher Than the Rest is his favorite song. I love when a song is written from one perspective and it becomes a different song. For example, No Surrender, a song about friendship and love, became to me when I had colon cancer, right? That it was no retreat, no surrender. Like that this was my theme song. And so, yeah, I love it when a song does something a little bit different. So, any thoughts on that?
I think trying to articulate what I was trying to say earlier is before I could relate to it, but I don't find it now as relatable as I did for
Okay.
some reason. I know why.
So let's go through, and we don't need to go through every song in a row unless you have, but
Okay.
what's the next song you feel like you want to share and have thoughts on?
Well, we can go to All That Heaven Will Allow. And I
Okay.
think that's a song, it's just a song of how he's happy to be
Yeah.
alive and to be in love. I don't think there's any
Yeah.
other narrative to that, but it's also, great lyrics and a great song. Just
Yeah.
that feeling when you're in love with someone and life seems great.
Couple thoughts on that song. One, it was a minor hit for the Mavericks. When I first heard the song, I thought of, man, you're talking to the bouncer to let you in because you left your wallet. Okay, so you don't have any money. You're not going to be able to buy her a Coke or something else. You guys are just going to dance when she goes, "Oh, I'm really thirsty." And I left my wallet. You're going to have to buy. So I always think of that smiling. I do think the rain and storm and dark skies now they don't mean a thing if you got a girl that loves you and wants to wear your ring. I love that optimism that if everything else may be shit, but if
Yeah.
you've got a partner that's supporting you, it makes it better. The other thought is there was a guy on when Lynette Carolla was doing her Springsteen podcast. Someone talked about when he had cancer, he would quote, he would listen to this song and specifically the lyrics. Now, some may want to die young, man, young and gloriously. Get it straight now, mister. Hey, buddy, that ain't me. Because I got something on my mind that sets me straight and walking proud, and I want all the time, all that heaven will allow. That is the reason why this song made my F Cancer playlist, right? The idea that I want all the time in the world.
Mm.
So, yeah, really, absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why, you know, because these songs all speak to me so personal, I just love them. Other songs that you wanted that have a meaning to you, Chris?
Yeah, I think Walk Like a Man. I think there's a lot to unpack there. You could almost do an entire episode on that one
I do
song.
too.
Like the one thing is the intimate way he talks about his dad in there, in a
Yeah.
very which he did, which was like the first time he spoke or sung about his dad in that way. Really,
Yeah.
he now realizes he's following in his footsteps on the beach. He realizes now he's a man and he's going to have children following him. He's got that responsibility of being the man of the house has now moved over to him, saying that parents can show you so much, but there's still a lot you've got to learn by yourself. And then especially the end when he says, "Well, I was young and I didn't know what to do when I saw your best step stolen away from you." Obviously, he's talking about his dad, best part of his life, working dead end jobs and see the other problems we know he had. So yeah,
I think what's really interesting, you're bringing it up, a great point, is he certainly has written about his dad often, right? Adam Raised a Cain, Independence Day. So it does seem at this where he's a little kinder to his dad here.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've shared before on the podcast is when he did the river tour where he did the river in a row, right? And it is the idea that he talked about in that introduction that two people that love each other that don't know how to say it. And I like this where he says all of a sudden he's understanding his father as he
Mm.
did that. I think is really well done. There's a lot of if Bruce's background, there's a lot there to unpack, like talking about the lyrics of the talking about the shadow of the rose, which is his church. They
Mm.
talk about how close they were to that on the church there. Yeah, I love the idea that him thinking of this as he's starting his marital journey, his journey into adulthood, and understanding a little bit more about his dad. Yeah, great choice. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
Mm,
no,
mhm.
so I think I've mentioned this before, it's on a podcast, but that last verse is like a personal meaning to me as well, because my dad, he worked, yeah, very hard. He
Yeah.
would often be working evenings, doing work while
Mhm.
we're watching TV. He'd still be doing work, and then it retired, and he was just about to enjoy his retirement, and then he gets cancer. 6 months later, he's
Mhm.
gone. So I feel like in some ways that's or a slightly different scenario, but he was still quite reasonably young person,
Yeah.
67. But then there's that helplessness that you can't do anything about it.
And I think that's why I another push for better days, right? The idea that life is a journey and you can't wait to do that as we are not guaranteed how long we are going to get this life. There's a great line in Neil Gaiman's Sandman where the death character takes a baby and she says the baby says that's all it is and death says you get what everyone got, a a lifetime.
My dad, yeah, he did have a good life. Like he always said, don't wish your life away.
Yeah, that's
You know,
great.
he worked hard so he could do the things he enjoyed. Unfortunately, he just gone too soon.
All right. What else, my friend?
Then which other ones? I think Two Faces. That's another song, which I think as I've grown older, I first bought
Hmm.
this album when I was 17. Now I'm 54, so I've had
Yeah.
it two-thirds of my life or more. Yeah, this is also a song I can relate to. When he says, "Sometimes, mister, I feel sunny and wild. Lord, I love to see my baby smile. When dark
Hmm.
clouds come rolling by, two faces have I." And now I understand that because also you know, that happens to me. I get, I guess it's almost like depression. I do get take medication for anxiety. Sometimes it will just something will just set it off,
Hmm.
and you become you don't know why you become like that, but
Right.
you end up being nasty to people who've done nothing to you,
Yeah.
and you just turn against the people who are being kind to you for no reason. Maybe because you want to vent your anger, and they're the easiest people to the easiest targets. I don't know. I understand what he's saying there with that how you can be two people at the same time.
Yeah, it really is easy. Yeah, the I have special memories for I was in Houston and there was a sign request to do, and you can find it if you Google One Step Up Houston, Texas, and there's a sign request, and Bruce says, "We do not know this song. You have made your bed, sir." And the band does it, and you hear Bruce go, "Silently, come in there." And it's just a really special. I love One Step Up. It just has this feeling of you're fighting against the waves. So, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think that's also it's if you've been in a troubled relationship,
Yeah,
which I have, especially a one step up, two steps back, which is
yeah,
whenever you think things could be going better, then suddenly they
hmm
go doubly worse. Yeah, that's also, you know, after I got divorced, I was listening to this album. I don't know
hmm
how long, much long afterwards, maybe as well as still going on. And I had to just turn it off because it was like too close to the bone.
yeah,
It was reflecting all the feelings, I had at that time. Bruce is, is this the one thing Bruce is like being totally open with his emotions and feelings in a way I don't think he hasn't been so honest with his feelings before or since.
yeah,
Like the whole way through this album.
yeah. Any other songs you want to discuss?
But they're all good. I don't think there's anything else that
Speaks
I've
to
really
you?
got a.
Yeah,
But I think they all of them
yeah,
speak to me. Tunnel of Love again. That's some sort of profound lyrics on there.
yeah.
Well, it ought to be easy, ought to be simple enough. Man meets a woman and they fall in love, which is, I think, what we all aim to do to start with, but it just doesn't.
It doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
always work that way.
Any songs that don't work for you as much?
Valentine's. Well, I like Valentine's Day, but I don't quite understand. And also, I've got a queer. It's a good song,
Yeah,
but at the end, I wonder if he's talking about two people because the last verse, it wasn't the wind in the grave fields I felt rushing through my arms. Baby, it was you.
yeah,
And then he says, "So hold me close, honey. Say you're forever mine, and tell me you'll
yeah.
be my lonely Valentine." Now, is he talking about two different people? Because he's mentioning because he says, "No, no, baby," and then he's saying,
hmm
"So hold me close, honey."
Mm.
So I'm wondering because he's using two different words, is he talking about two different people? I don't know. That's the song. I don't know. Did you have any
No,
opinions
that's
on
a,
that?
I'm gonna have to go listen to it again. And that thought, I assumed it was the same person, but now that you brought that up, I need to look into that.
And
That's
and it,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah, and also he's driving a big car lazy. He doesn't say why he's driving, rushing up the highway in the dark.
yeah,
So is he? So, so is he in a relationship, but in then going to see someone else, or
yeah.
I don't know. It's like full
Okay.
of like it can be interpreted in a lot of ways. I'm sure I avoid going onto these websites for
Yeah,
explain the lyrics because sometimes it like spoils the meaning for me. But it's nice
right.
to have that mystery of of, but maybe of the ambiguity. But maybe he's like a traveling salesman or something because tonight I
Mm,
miss my girl,
yeah.
Mister Tonight I miss my home. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to re-listen. That's thought. Any final thoughts before we get you out of here, Chris?
No, I think it's just
hmm
as I've said, it's the songwriting's probably
hmm
as good as he's got over an entire album. I wish he gave the songs more attention live, but I guess they don't fit particularly
hmm
well within the sort of the E Street
Yeah.
normal sort of E Street set. So I
Well,
don't think
and yeah, no, I was gonna say one of the things that, for a while there, when he was doing album shows, he certainly did Darkness and he did Born in the USA and Born to Run. I would have loved to have gone to a show where he did Tunnel of Love in Row. I just think it would have been amazing. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
I suppose it's just is Tunnel a big enough album
Yeah.
to do to do the complete thing in the show? Is
Hmm.
there enough of the audience who
Yeah.
are gonna stay interested?
I don't know.
Or
I know
yeah,
I
this
would love it. I would love
yeah,
it very
yeah, me
much.
too.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before I've already asked you that? I'm getting confused. Chris, if someone wants to reach you, what's the best way?
um, okay, well, I was on Twitter, but I just couldn't handle it anymore. I left, and I'm so much better now. I'm there.
Yeah.
I tried to block and unfollow people who were sort of retweeting and posting nonsense,
Hmm.
but you just can't avoid it.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's antagonistic, and I just don't need that in my life.
Yes.
It doesn't help. It's nothing I can do about it. It's just annoying. So I just
Yeah.
thought, no, I'd rather get rid of that. So probably Instagram. I start like taking lots of pictures.
Oh, good.
Flickrus, Flickris,
Hmm.
is my Instagram handle. Also on Facebook, Chris Bloom. You can find me there. Yeah, so that's
Super.
pretty much it.
That is so great. I am so happy. Yeah, I think I I've often debated that if I didn't have a podcast to promote, I may get off social media altogether. But so far, I'm sticking to it, and but I totally embrace why you would want to, yeah, get out of this.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and it's both sides. Unfortunately, I probably lean to a more liberal way of thought, but even even some of the more liberal sort of Democrat
hmm,
supporting people, they post childish in some of the stuff they post, but not, obviously
yeah,
not as bad as some of the
yeah.
other stuff. But let's not mention that name
I
on
absolutely
here.
get you. Yes, exactly. Chris, thank you for spending your Saturday afternoon with me. As we talk about, this is a timey-wimey for us. It's my morning, your afternoon. I was drinking a nice cup of coffee, and you were having a nice afternoon beverage, shall we
Yes.
say. So good for you. Just, I appreciate your friendship and your support. You are a dear friend, and I hope we get to meet in person someday. But I just appreciate all you do for to support the show and our friendship. And just thank you. You mean the world to me.
Well, I often think, wouldn't it be great if everybody, all the Springsteen fans I know around the world, we could all get
Yeah.
together for a beer or something, which is probably not going to happen, but we have to appreciate that we've got these wonders of modern technology and communication, and this is the next best thing. We
Yeah.
can chat. I don't know how many, probably 10,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Um, we can chat like we're in the same room about something we both love. So yeah,
Yes. It is
it's great.
amazing when you think about it. So that's great. All right, listeners, I just want you to remind you, let's put your I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. I am Jesse Jackson on Facebook. We do have a Patreon page. Go to Patreon, look up Set Lusting Bruce, and for as little as $1 a month, you can support the podcast. And every bit goes to help cover the podcast expenses. So thank you for that support. I want you to clear your mind, open your heart, and remember that first thought of you've had Born in the USA and you're excited for a new studio album and putting that on and re-listen to Tunnel of Love with fresh ears. I think you're going to love it. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, listeners. Remember to be safe, be kind, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.